Scroll back up a little bit.
What you want?
Tell me that man putting a potato in there isn't fetish content.
Oh, that is so fetish content. That's really crazy fetish content.
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Katherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are
the Anidorks.
These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. So they got to get through this force field, and they're like, there's nothing big enough to break through it. And so their idea is to go small.
Now, and I just want to say, that makes no sense to me. That is like such schoolyard logic. It's like, what do they think? It's like, I guess if you think of a force field abstractly and you're like, it's like jail bars, which small things can get through. But come on, you guys. Like, if it can, that's not how force fields work.
Well,
they act in opposition to a force acted upon them in equal amount or whatever as to stop you from progressing through a thing. Does not matter how minuscule the force. If anything, it's easier for a small thing.
So we do get
to stop going through.
Axe knows a thing later that he doesn't bring up now. That makes this make a certain level of sense, which is that he knows that the way this force field works, it stops at surface level. So going under is achievable. And so...
Okay. All right. As long as he knows that... And
you want to be stealthy. You don't want anybody to know you're there, so you got to go small.
Very small.
As long as he knows that, I'll accept it. Doesn't he say it speculatively? He says it must work like this then.
There's no reason that people guarding against morph capable, like they know that Andalites, they believe that Andalites are the ones trying to get in. There's no reason that they would use a force field that has this gaping flaw in it, like when they know that that's what... Like they wouldn't feel protected in this instance because they know...
Right, any amount of non-safety... Any weakness, any exploit would be as good as leaving it unlocked.
Right, yes. Because
it's like, it might even be better to make it more obvious that they're coming through the front door.
the transponder disappeared because of they morphed into ants. Axe escaped from Visser 3's prison by turning into a flea.
You're absolutely right.
They just can't calculate for this for some reason.
And the closest they've ever come to catching the Animorphs was with good old-fashioned nets.
Yeah.
And it actually almost worked. They've tried Ramonite boxes. They've tried
they tried
all these things and
a tornado.
They tried a Valik. They trained an animal to kill specifically Animorphs rather than a good old-fashioned net.
But this is the thing. Visser 3 is a creative. He's not going to use the Bida book.
That's right.
He is an artist. He's such a UArts grad.
Right. He's going to He's a broadcaster.
He's an
open broadcast.
Oh my God, can we start calling people who talk too loudly
broadcasters? Can we also start reading all of his dialogue in open broadcast in our best transatlantic accent?
Yes, all little William F. Buckley sort of.
Okay, so now we get an aside scene where Cassie.
Yes, we get Cassie's B plot for the book. All the way in chapter 7, really got married.
And she's with her dad.
This scene, I love this scene.
It's really cute. It's really cute. They're dynamic and it's really good.
Even though it is technically a setup, it kind of thematically did a really good job of burying that in much the same way as the pool scene from book 4.
Where you really thought it was going to be you thought it was just for fun.
Yeah, like genuinely, I thought this was
just
color.
for feelings.
Yeah, and that's what good writing does. Like, it hides the mechanic of it.
And so she goes into this. Her dad asks her where she's been, and she's already feeling bad because she just has to lie all the time, especially to her parents.
She's so angsty. She's so angsty. She's like, why would they ask me questions?
Yeah.
They trust me. You used to be they could trust me. Look what I've become.
An animorph.
Now it's like I'm lying all the time. Like Rachel.
Great.
Like filthy, stupid Rachel.
Maybe Cassie's song in the Animorphs musical is about this, and it's a rotten feeling.
I'm no better than her.
Okay, so Cassie's dad is talking about they got a call from the highway patrol. There's an animal on the side of the highway that's been injured. It has a bad burn.
A certain animal.
Yes, a certain animal.
Did you guys think that it was like, I had a flash where I was like, is he being asked by the FBI to not specify because it's a fucking Andalite who just got lasered open? Like, that was, for a second, I freaked out about a certain, air quotes, animal.
Yeah. Well, that could have been a backdoor into the idea of Lauren, the Andalite host of Visser 3.
Oh, if they'd saved him and just like tried to hide him in Cassie's farm.
But he doesn't want to say what this animal is. And Cassie puts together, there was only one animal in all the world my dad was afraid of. He handled foxes and wolves and even bears, but he would not handle this certain animal. Are you telling me it's a skunk? She asks him.
I would say there's two animals. Like, he seems reluctant to operate on humans also.
Yeah.
Well, he just doesn't have a license.
Yeah.
You don't know how reluctant he is.
Yeah, you're right. He has a skunk license, but won't operate.
So, yes, it's a skunk. He says that Cassie has a real way with skunks. Mm-hmm. And he has a big meeting tomorrow and can't show up smelling like skunk, and she can afford the risk.
With the Dudette Cat Food Corporation tomorrow.
It's a good name.
Miranda, I genuinely can't remember if this whole side thing of him dealing with the cat food corporation, does that pay off?
No.
Why is he working with a cat food corporation?
I think it's so he won't be at the barn.
Okay. I was like, this is important. I need to follow this. So Cassie's mom comes in carrying a 6-pack of V8 juice.
Which is like, this is a period of time when this was such a strong trope on sitcoms, was like bathing the child in tomato juice, and that this image speaks volumes. Yeah. Whereas, like, I don't know if that's well represented in TikToks of yore. I don't know if there are vines about getting sprayed by a skunk. The other thing I recall is that, truthfully, it doesn't work. Like, tomato juice, I don't think actually changes the situation all that much.
I think the acid in it is supposed to neutralize something.
Well, we had it in our house growing up because of this, because it was supposed to.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, our mom just
we had it for grilled cheese.
I also love tomato juice. We start to get a bit about why Cassie's dad is so afraid of. I almost said veterinarians. Why he's so afraid. Why he's so afraid of skunks.
I fear most myself.
For the harm I could do, I took the Hippocratic Oath.
But it only applies to hippos.
So really, it's more of a hypocritic oath.
I don't actually remember why he's scared of skunks.
Oh, he says there was
he got
an
sprayed.
incident.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he just got sprayed really badly.
He got Mondo sprayed.
He had to sleep in the yard.
Stunk for a week.
They tried to...
He had to sleep in the barn, but then the animals complained, so he had to sleep in the tent.
And then they had to burn the tent.
They had to burn the tent.
But skunks apparently really like Cassie. And then they're like, all animals like you. And she's like... All book, I'm coping with murdering animals.
Yeah.
Oh, we get a shout out to the OG truck.
Yes.
Her dad got a new truck.
Oh yeah, they talk about the truck that got totaled in Megamorphs. Oh, rip. The only thing he likes about it is that he has a CD player to play his smooth jazz on.
Right.
Do you remember we thought in Megamorphs, we're like, they're never going to reference anything that happened in this book again. And they have in both book 8 and book 9.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll say is I'm impressed at how much insurance fraud happened in that book. I'm just impressed by it because
his car was stolen.
Well, but if it's stolen by your kid,
totaled. It was stolen by his not kid, Marco.
I guess you're right. And I guess Darlene's house was technically destroyed by a tornado.
Yeah.
But like...
So Cassie goes over and approaches the skunk. And her dad shouts out, like, don't forget your gloves. You know, skunks are a major vector for rabies. And she says, Dad, I have had the shot.
Which is a brave stance to take in this day.
Yeah. Cassie approaches the skunk. Here's the thing about skunks. They are the sweetest animals alive. They don't have a mean bone in their bodies, but that's because they don't have to be mean. They possess the ultimate weapon. Even so, they will always warn you. If they turn their backs on you, that's a warning. If they raise their tails with the tips down, that's a very serious warning. If they raise the tips of their tails, you are in a very bad situation. If you're dealing with a skunk who has turned buttward, and raised its tail all the way, you would want to freeze. Trust me. Every wild animal knows this. Dogs, unfortunately, don't understand about skunks, but bears, raccoons, wolves, and most birds of prey know that you just don't mess with that skunk tail. Maybe you think you know how bad skunk musk is because you've driven by skunk roadkill. That's nothing. Up close and personal, it's a whole different level of stench. If you imagine the most horrible smell possible, then multiply it by 1,000, you still won't be close. Something tells me this is going to be important later.
Yeah. It is a really big zeroing in on skunks. So they're pulling over on the side of the highway, and Cassie's got to hop out and triage this skunk. Her dad's like, be careful, people drive like maniacs out here. And she gets down to this poor skunk that has been very, very injured and burned. But the burn is so, well, don't get distracted quiz. Don't get distracted. Quiz. Don't get distracted. Come on, quiz.
Oh, you're doing it. You're getting distracted.
No, but so it's interesting that it was called in as a burn, and that it's a burn that's this peculiar because Cassie walks up to it and immediately recognizes it as a dracon beam burn. The sort of thing where like flesh is just missing, has been removed. It's like there's a negative cylinder where the laser beam shot through. In 3D graphics, that's called a Boolean modifier. It's like having a lead pipe straight through you. I'll stop there.
You already gone too far.
The point is, well, you kept making faces, and I was like, I wonder how many more faces I can get in my Eddy collection. But
NFTs.
NFTs, every one of you. NFTs, non-fungible Eddys.
Man, I feel like I haven't heard anyone talk about
fungible anymore.
NFTs in a long time.
We're topical here. We're topical. Okay, so anyway, NFTs aside, it's a good thing Cassie triaged this animal because it's a very weird burn. So she brings the skunk back to her dad, and they go home.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's almost like that shouldn't have taken that long for us to get through. But for some reason, I had to read all of the things you learn when you're 5 about the skunk. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep reading this.
I will say this. The place where they picked the skunk up from, in Cassie's estimation, is less than a quarter of a mile from the logging site, air quotes, logging site / Central Yerk base that is in the middle of the woods. That is scary close to be to something that you don't want to be near. Like, that's like, you're basically in eyesight of it. Like,
so we're at the mall. It's the next day. We're at the mall.
It's true. We're shopping.
And they're still trying to act normal. So they are purposely not together as a group. Is that right?
Chapter 8.
Thank you so much.
We get like 2 to 3 pages of them acting like they're not all friends.
Yeah.
Committing to this facade because they believe that controllers would see them and go, why is that group of children always together? That's suspicious. Children never hang out in groups of 4.
Yeah.
Yes, children are always only in pairs and threesomes. Thruples, if you will.
Always along gender lines. I feel like that's really the thing. It's like, Cassie, Rachel,
That's true.
2 girls, 3 boys, that's it.
Yeah. When Cassie and Rachel approach Jake, Marco, and Axe has just finished a plate of nachos. And I actually think I have this memory of reading this, and it was the first time I'd heard about nachos. I hadn't eaten nachos.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
I'm pretty sure. I'm like asked.
How old were you?
Like
8.
anywhere 5 to 7. Yeah, but it was like I read this and I was like, I don't know what nachos are.
They didn't have nachos at our school lunch.
I don't think so.
Was this on the? Did we talk about this on the podcast,
They had
or
them
was
at
that just in a
movie
phone
theaters,
call?
though.
Yeah, they had to, but Mom never let us
We
get
never had
anything in
nachos.
those
No,
theaters.
but
Yeah, but at school
other
they didn't
kids'
have a nacho
parents
day.
did.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
don't
'cause,
remember
like,
a nacho.
what did they have
beef
at school? They had
nachos. We had beef nachos.
At school.
That's
And
cool.
the chips were like the soggy cardboard because they would just pile the cheese on top of them and then the greasy
I have a
food.
vague memory of that.
There's a question here that comes with Axe eating nachos, though. Cassie asked him, were the nachos good? He said they tasted of grease and salt. Plus, there was another flavor that reminds me of some delicious engine oil I once tried. And this haunts Cassie the rest of the book. Like,
It really does.
did Axe drink engine oil? Okay, so we get something important about how Tobias has been spying on the lumber camp, right? And he watched the place from high up. He thinks the controllers at the site have little transponders on their belts that let them pass through the force field. And they respond to the biochemical signature of the wearer.
That's what Axe
which means
thinks.
that
Yeah, they can't just steal
kill a guard to like take his and make
Yeah,
their way in.
yeah.
Right, which is what Miranda just said, but more
So
specific.
this is how we get to the termite idea, right?
Yeah, Tobias thinks that there's termites because there's these tiny little holes in the wood that he can see with his hawk eyes.
Blows my eyes. Blows my mind.
Blows my eyes.
So Tobias actually brought termites.
Yeah, how did he get one? Like just from outside the force
Here's what
field?
they say. Tobias says they were working on the building a little today, putting in extra dracon beams. They had to cut away some of the logs. And then Jake just pulls out a vial from his pocket, and that's all he explains. So
Yes.
presumably he grabbed a chunk of wood that had termites on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess flew it back. He gripped it by the
Yeah,
husks.
because they want to make sure it's the same colony after what happened with the ants. Which
Right.
was
Yeah, they
They're
really
all very
fucked up
upset
that
about the
Amorph.
ants.
Yeah, which was preventable. Like, they could have just acquired the morph of the ant at...
But hey, they learned this time. They learned.
Yeah. So they have the termite out for them to acquire the morph. Rachel held out her hand. Jake tapped the vial till the insect landed in her palm. I saw it across Rachel's lifeline, and I saw it become...
Lifeline. Palm reading. It's palm reading. It's so adorable. It's
we
like
know-
it's
Also,
making
does this-
tiny witches out of
Does
children.
this back up that, I mean, we think if someone's going to die of the group, it's going to be Rachel?
Yeah.
I think so. I think
I think
like
it's foreshadowing.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. But my mom told me she doesn't want to write in, but she said, from watching a lot of TV, I think it's Axe.
That's going to die?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, she's like, I don't think they'll kill one of the main
They
characters.
can't.
And I was like, Mom,
He
Axe
is a main
character.
character.
No, but she's right. She's right. Another like an alien species main character, however human, can die. And you don't have to worry about the like existential component of it nearly the same way. I think your mom's on.
I don't think these books are scared of the existential component.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw it crawl across Rachel's lifeline, and I saw it become still as Rachel acquired the termite DNA. I imagined being that termite, crawling across the gigantic hand, thinking every crease in Rachel's palm was as deep as a ditch. When Rachel was done, I held out my own hand. It was shaking. It was shaking, and I couldn't stop it from shaking. The brightly lit mall food court suddenly seemed dark. Lord, that tiny insect scared me. Deep down inside, it truly scared me. I love this moment. I was like, the first moment where I was like, oh, I'm on board for this book.
I agree. It was, I don't know what the analogy is. I don't know what it looked like to other people, but them just passing this bug around in the mall food
Don't draw
court.
attention to us. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of was like, I don't know. It felt like a scene from Midsummer or something somehow.
Yeah, it's a horror
it was
movie.
That intense.
Like zoom in or something. Yeah. Okay, so they're going to the logging camp. They have the termite morph, and they're going at night.
She does announce that. She announces we would go that night, that very night. And then she's like, doing homework when you think you're about to die is pretty difficult. So I went out to hang with my dad.
She goes out to the barn, and her dad is actually, goes to what you were saying before, Chris. You thought that she hid the burn from her dad, but she actually goes out to the book.
Because her dad didn't like put it together how weird the burn actually was until, or at least he didn't voice it until now.
Yeah.
But
so she goes out to the barn and he's confused by the burn.
Yeah. And however confused he is by it, it seems to push him into like almost like one of those moments when you're a kid where like an adult sort of, not in an inappropriate way, but in a way maybe that adult had chosen to shield you from a reality. Like the adult sort of just lets the curtain down on the fact that this was probably a mother skunk and there's probably a litter somewhere that is like now missing their mother.
He seems to know for sure.
Yeah, he does, which I don't know the ins and outs of that. I don't understand that, but he does seem to know for sure.
Yeah. There's a great moment though where she's saying, the night before my dad had bandaged the wound and now he carefully removed the gauze. The sight of the bird made me wince, even though I've seen hundreds of injured animals. And then her dad is like, speaking as he's looking at this wound, he's going, pa, pa, pa,
pa, pa.
Yeah.
This is apparently his animal examining noise.
Yeah. And she says, that's the sound my dad makes when he's examining something interesting. Yeah, pa. I don't know why he just does. I love that little moment. I don't know if that's what you two were talking about before when you were saying like it felt really lived in or it was just like a nice dynamic, but that's what came to mind.
It has... This is part of what I meant by like the dynamic with her dad that I really like in this book.
Yeah, absolutely. And the idea of like the indifference of the dracon beam is kind of upsetting and horrifying in its own right to me. Like at least like, you know, knives and guns tear you apart. But like something about the dracon beam just erasing part of this poor skunk is really disturbing to me, I think is what I'm trying to say.
And it came very close to killing it.
Yeah.
So she says, she follows up, she has babies out there somewhere in the woods. And then it says, my dad started applying a new bandage. Cassie, you know nature plays rough. And this is like one of the big things that Cassie has to wrestle with in the book. It's just a good line. Like delivered at the right time, too.
This is sort of reminiscent, though, of the vibes I was getting in the Cassie Marco scene in book 4. Like, Cassie
just
tells
something real
witch
gets
stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does. She remembers these parts better than other people.
Yeah.
Is the explanation we'll go with.
Yeah.
It's my head canon.
Yeah.
I just I'm still trying to take these all as like accounts after the fact.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
I also
accurate.
just think that they're writing Cassie as someone who pays attention. And not all of them are paying us equal attention, even in like she's one of the more empathetic characters who probably is better at conversation. Also, is my like how I'd imagine her. Yeah, so she's really stuck on this, but they're too young to survive on their own, aren't they? That's Cassie asking. I can't be sure, he said, not looking at me. It occurred to me then that sometimes maybe he lied to me too, for my own good, or because of what he thought was my own good. And then she's wondering, they're sitting in some den wondering where their mother is. They'll starve to death or be eaten by predators. And she's going to follow up on this. Like, she can't stop thinking about this.
Yeah. And as the scene draws to a close, you know, she asks for permission to go to Rachel's. Mm-hmm. She knows that Rachel's asking permission to go to Cassie's, and they're going to meet up in the woods. And Jake and Marco were going to lie to their parents, too. And she says, I was going to face death that very night. And the last thing I would have said to my father was a lie. And this is, again, she's got a lot of like through lines through this book. Mm-hmm. And one of them is this lying to her parents one. And they all sort of tie back into her moral dilemma about everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And she hits the ants note right at this time, too. She says, I remember the tunnels of the ants. I remembered the way I saw them in my nightmares. I never had seen them in reality. Ants don't see very well. There's no light underground. But in my dreams, I saw everything. I saw the huge metallic-looking heads of the enemy ants as they crashed through sand walls and locked their massive pincers on me and tried to slice me into pieces. Do you know what it's like to think that you're going to die and never even get back to human morph? To believe that you're going to die as an ant trapped in a hell that no human had ever been to? And now she thinks of the skunk kits.
She thinks of them and the fact that they're doing the only thing they know how to do right now, which is cry. And every time they cry, it's bringing a predator closer. She lets her father finish up and leave. And she waits a moment and goes back and acquires a skunk morph.
Mm-hmm. And I was half surprised that they waited to the second interaction with the same skunk. I was like, that's kind of fascinating.
Well,
She may have not wanted to do it in front of her dad.
They also, her dad mentions
he made her wear gloves.
Yeah, he mentions the vaccine thing, and they make a point of the fact that she's wearing gloves in those first scene. And now she has to like actively, so she's not acquiring it by accident.
Take the gloves off.
Yes, she has to take the glove off.
Right.
And then it's interesting that they pace it that way.
Yeah. And especially in contrast to Axe in last book, kind of choosing to pick up the snake before he even had a purpose for it.
Yeah.
Which was bizarre in that book too, because like we have talked so many times about like, what would the harm be in acquiring a morph if we don't, like, I guess if you were concerned there was a limit, that would be one thing, but nobody ever says that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, I would be like picking up morphs. I'd be like, ooh, a salamander.
Yeah.
I'll take a salamander.
Yeah.
But for her, it has to be purposeful, which maybe speaks to the species difference. You know, Andalites understand the technology, understand the limits of it. He knew that the snake morph was no big thing. He should pick it up right then, and he'd find a use for it down the line. Whereas like Cassie is like slower and more respectful.
And she's going to be the most deliberate of any of the Animorphs too, because she's the one thinking about consent.
And yet is the Animorph most skilled at accurately picking, well, debatably accurately, but accurately picking morphs for specific jobs. So in that way, she like is both straddling the utilitarianness of the Andalite, but also the empathy of the humans, and is makes the Estrine thing kind of just a beautiful resonance.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were going for. Yeah, she's also the best at morphing.
I was building to
I see. Yes. So now they're meeting at night in the woods, and Marco picks it up with, well, what a surprise seeing you all here. Yeah, they're now all in the woods at 3 in the morning? Yeah, 3 in the morning.
I was just going to say, she gets a really good line in this intro chapter about, you know, we're 5 kids, you know, getting together to morph, because Tobias was in the tree above them, so even if he's not morphing with them. And it's the same 5 kids who wandered through that construction site, who saw the Andalite, whose lives had been changed. And she says, we had been made into soldiers that night. Soldiers in a terrible war we could not really hope to win. And that's like the most bleakest and plainest way it's been put so far. I feel like they've said in like lines of dialogue, they've said things about, you know, being soldiers or whatever. But like this was just a very like flat out, no frills, no exaggeration, we're soldiers.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, like, it's not exactly even relevant, but I've been impressed with that through the whole book. Her, like, you know, because throughout the books, we hear them hit notes of the other characters. We hear them describe the other characters. It's like one of the best things about the books is like, you get to hear how Cassie feels about Rachel, Marco, Axe, you know, blah, blah, blah. But when she was describing Tobias's predicament, she hits the like bone chilling note of it's been a minute and nobody has noticed he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't book 4 where we said so much about book 4. It was the lighthearted one. The kids got to have fun. They were dolphins. This is not that book.
No.
And it's so much more about the toll that this is all taken on Cassie. And that's only going to get more pronounced as we go.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how the second books have been so far, right? Jake's second book and Rachel's second book were also about the cost. Classic Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Marco's first book was about the cost, I feel like.
Yeah, but he was anticipating the cost through, like, I guess it was earned anxiety, right? Because it's like, it was earned anxiety. So he was already on his book 2 and book 1 because his mom had died.
Well,
and he had to deal with the fallout of that.
Book 1 was the fallout of the death of his mom, and in his book 2, we'll get the fun intricacies that come with knowing that his mom is alive in Visser 1.
Yeah. The ghost of his mother, so to speak.
He was also kind of the comic relief for everyone else in their books, so he kind of got to be light in a way before that, I guess. Maybe. Yeah.
So
it's super fascinating.
Their plan is to morph owls to go flying in the dark.
And this speaks to my point from like, I don't know, 3 minutes ago, where she's stoked about being an owl because it will give her a huge advantage in not casually, but obliquely, like additionally finding the skunk pups.
Yes, she's
because
looking
she wants to eat
kits.
the skunks.
No.
Using the motivation of hunger, she's going to find and then save.
Yes.
Yes, but she's kind of troubled by these things. She's in the predator mode, and that's what's going to help her find the skunks to save them. I feel
she's going to use her. She's going to use her cocaine edge to be the best damn parent you've ever seen.
We get Marco still thinking about those Animorph costumes, Animorph outfits.
Oh my god, yeah.
And Marco says, I'm just saying, if we're going to be superheroes, we need to do something about these stupid outfits. We look like refugees from a Bulgarian gymnastics competition. That's all I'm saying.
I like that they're refugees from the competition.
Yes, yeah.
The competition went that poorly.
Not some kind of war, not some, it's like, no, there was some fallout after that gymnastics meet. Like,
the bomber horse collapsed.
Oh, who loosened the bolts? Like, perhaps it was the Bulgarian team. We were wrongfully accused, and we seek asylum in your country.
Just continuing this thread, Cassie said, I was worrying about too many things. My science project, lying to my parents, whether Axe really tried drinking engine oil, whether the baby skunks had already been killed.
Yeah.
And I love that that's just categorized with those other things, you know.
But she's also self-aware enough to know that her brain may be doing this to avoid facing what she's really terrified of, which is turning into the termite. Because, I know we said it, but they're really fucked up about the ants. They are all still extremely fucked up about the ants.
It's undersold in this book. Like, they mention how fucked up they are, but they're like so fucked up that they're not going to even demonstrate how fucked up they are about these ants.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this morph.
Cassie notices Axe morphing first, right?
We're morphing into owls, though, in this instance.
Morphing into owls,
Just to orient. We're going to morph into owls. We're going to fly to the thing. We're going to morph into termites.
Fly to the logging camp,
Exactly. And so Axe was morphing rather quickly, and, take it away, Ed.
His tail went limp like an empty sock.
Yeah.
It's maybe the standout one here, but there's a couple other.
Have you heard of degloving?
Yeah.
Yes.
Miranda knows what it is. Eddie knows what it is.
Why do you think I wear a fucking silicone ring?
My internal organs were radically redesigned.
Yes.
And my eyes seemed to swell and swell till they filled my entire head. My eyes were so huge compared to my body that they practically rubbed together inside my skull.
I imagine that her organs looked like the Jazz Cup design.
Axe says, I enjoy these eyes very much. They are wonderful.
He says what he means. So they're owling. They're having a good time. Tobias is like, don't eat anything I wouldn't eat. And then he leaves because he's scared of owls. He's an owl racist.
He just, there's a lot of internal bird, like, it's like how the left hates everybody on the left.
Tobias can't see at night, too, right?
Like, hawks are designed for the day. Owls
have the drop.
The
Owls have the drop.
So as we flew to what might be our destruction, not destination, I tried to focus on my other goal.
Our destination.
Our so-called
definitely
destination.
Our destination. What might be our destruction? Yeah, exactly.
I tried to focus on my other goal, listening for the cries of skunk kits, watching the ground below for the waddling, shuffling walk of a lost baby skunk. But Cassie finds the skunks, right? The mewling sound of the babies reached something inside me. And this is the moment I was looking for. Inside the human Cassie, but to the owl, it was the sound of a meal. It's strange to have those two feelings in your head at the same time. Human compassion and the cold ruthlessness of the predator. Strange.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's like the book is picking up, it's tying its shoelaces finally. Like, it's getting the internal dialogue to match the outer perceived resonance of Cassie's predicament. It's doing all the things. It just really took its time getting there. So on to chapter 11. They are almost at the force field base. They are almost at the logging capital of the national forest. Wow. I'm going to take that again.
That's exactly what you meant.
They are almost at Washington, D.C., but Abe Lincoln log cabin style.
Cassie's trying to, like, save in her brain where they are so that she can remember where, like, landmarks when she tries to come back for the skunks. Jake's like, all right, we get as close as we can, and then we go, but we can't be too close or they'll see us, and we can't be too far because termites don't actually cover much ground.
And Axe makes a suggestion. We could give the Yeerks something to chase. And
yeah,
they decide to draw straws.
This is a cool moment. They decide to draw straws, and
because they think they need Axe
straws
inside, so they're eliminating Axe because they're like, no, if there's Yeerk computers and stuff, we need you in there, so you're going. And then
then they draw straws, and they get Jake as the distraction causer.
Yeah,
and they all decided to be the thing, and I totally agree with them, but it is like there's something very weird about Jake not being on the inside of this mission.
Yeah. And Rachel says, go ahead, Mom. We can handle this.
It's the end of an era, you know?
Yeah. That's the last time they ever saw
Jake.
That's the last time they ever saw Jake.
He disappeared in the walls with Courtney.
Well, he saw his out. And he went.
Yeah.
And he went. He just, Cassie was talking about in an earlier chapter, wolves can just run and run and run.
Yeah.
And he just ran straight to the Mexico border.
So they're going to morph these termites. And Axe is like, what's up with termites? And Marco's
like, they're like ants. Not the thing to say.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And Cassie did a little research. They're actually more related to cockroaches, though they are related to ants and sort of behave a lot like ants. They eat cellulose or wood pulp, but only like a subset of them eat that. And the other subset eat the waste of subset A. So subset A, right. So group A eats wood.
It takes 2 passes for a termite to destroy your house.
Right.
Wait, maybe 1 pass and the other one finishes the job. It takes a 2-chain termite centipede to make this.
And so termite A eats the wood and termite B eats termite A's poop.
Right.
And then poops that out.
And that turns into fertilizer for termite food.
Nutella.
Oh, no.
And you've been eating it all along, Ed. You've been eating it this whole time. Put the jar down, Ed. So they turn into termites.
Well, no. So they're standing in the woods. They're talking about termites.
They don't turn into termites.
They will.
Well, the spotlights come on, presumably because Jake's distracting. Yes, because we hear the sound of humans' voices yelling and then the wild, defiant howl of a wolf.
So at this moment in the podcast, I showed a really cursed image of Elsie the cow, which we will link in the notes, but that's what's going on here.
Then they run towards the compound, which you would think, they're in their human morphs. You would think prior experience would stop them from doing that. We run hunched low, scurrying from tree to bush. Oh no, the cow. Miranda's just creating an obstacle course for herself with the edit. We ran hunched low, scurrying from tree to bush. Then as we got still closer, we dropped down and crawled on all fours, an unexpected all fours moment.
Yeah.
We huddled close. This is cute. They huddled close in a big group hug. They form a cuddle puddle because they know that when they morph, they'll become tiny, and even a few feet between us would seem like a mile.
Would be a mile. Aww. Yeah. It's kind of like Gundam, like I was telling you about when they're trying to talk to each other and they have to hold on to each other.
Yeah. And Cassie's sick with fear, afraid for Jake, afraid for her friends, afraid of the very thing she was about to become. And then she says, "Can I just say that this sucks?" And Marco says, "Amen." We were shoulder to shoulder. My head touched his.
Aww.
Very sweet.
Rachel's got her arm around her too, I think.
Yeah. And it does feel huge.
Yeah. What do you mean by it feels huge? Like it feels emotional?
Just them turning into termites. Like they're
It feels absolutely.
So then they're turning into termites and Cassie's looking at Rachel and then she starts to morph too, and then she's glad termites are blind.
Classic bit where they just are like, wow, morphing is so gross.
Yeah, because she sees the monstrously big mandibles spring like black sideways tusks from Rachel's mouth.
I want, like, to open a dentistry practice called Monstrously Big Mandibles, and we just specialize in like oversized dental implants or something.
Nice.
So I want to read I feel like the top of chapter 12 is good.
I would hit it.
Yeah.
I couldn't see, but I could feel the antennae as they extruded from my forehead. I couldn't see, but I could feel the extra set of legs growing from my sides. I could sense, rather than see, that my head was huge compared to the rest of my body. I could sense that I had a swollen abdomen. Why did you make me read this? Are you blackmailing me? I could feel the massive pincers where my mouth had been. I wanted to scream so badly, but I no longer had a voice. I no longer had a tongue. I was less than 1/4 of an inch long. I was as long as any 2 or 3 letters on this page. Grains of sand were the size of bowling balls to me.
We do get a huge long shaft in the next line if you wanted to.
Oh, okay. With my wildly waving feelers, I could sense a huge, long shaft.
Have you ever seen Long Long Man?
Like a fallen yet sturdy log.
They managed to talk to each other through thought speak for a bit before things go bad.
Yeah, they do. They sort of get oriented. They start marching in a direction.
But the direction they pick is something they just have a vague pull toward. Is this? I've never read the the Odyssey. Is this anything like the Sirens? Like, is this like what? They don't.
Like, what's happening here?
They don't hear anything, which you would normally hear something with the Sirens.
But they describe it as a voice. They describe it as
Cassie
like sensing a voice.
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're being like called to something. Mm-hmm. But they're not being called to a threat.
No, they're being called home.
Yeah.
And that's the most disturbing thing about this. I mean, in a way, it's like almost peaceful and beautiful. I mean, if they wanted to just be termites the rest of their termite life, they do quite well, I'm sure.
I can't wait for you to read chapter 13, Chris.
You told me not to.
I know. I'm saying it just because I actually will. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I'm like here's what I'm imagining for chapter 13. I'm imagining that they get down there and it's like fucking Fraggle Rock. It's a bunch of fun. People are singing songs. People are learning lessons about love and life and laughter.
Mama just wants to give hugs to all of her
Mama just wants to give hugs to all of her termite children. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's Fraggle Rock down there. Down to Fraggle Rock.
Boop, boop. Down to Fraggle Rock. None of us are old enough for this reference.
Yeah, but Jeff made me watch a bunch of it once.
Yeah.
So I want to hit how they get through the force field. They try to dig down under the ground, like through dirt, and it doesn't work for some reason. But there's like a shadow cast by this pine needle that they can.
It's apparently close enough to the ground that it counts as being under the force field. It's very bizarre, but it creates a little channel that they can walk under. And this is where Axe got speculative about what must be happening. Cassie says, "Hey," I yelled, genuinely excited. "Find a pine needle or something that crossed the line. I think maybe there's no force field directly beneath them." This is the Axe speculation. Yes, Axe agreed. The pine needle may cast a shadow in the force field, which is just funny because it's like not a very strongly worded thing. Like he's like, it might. I guess it is.
Yeah, no,
We're
that's
going
true.
under it.
And I mean, like we've heard multiple times before that the Andalites at least don't have many creatures this small, and actually most of them aren't nearly this small. So maybe tech from other places, I don't know. Maybe they...
No, I don't know either. But I just, like, as someone who writes a lot of support emails, when I say may, I am promising nothing.
I'm just saying...
if I say it may be that, like...
Cassie does say, though, and I feel like the writing is rarely this precise, but she says, but the pine needle did cast a sort of shadow, and within that shadow, I could squeeze through. So it at least follows the logic of that. And they...
So the next thing Cassie says is that she starts to think she can almost identify the voice that's calling her, and she thinks it's her mom. And they all just keep going across all these big old dirt boulders, and everybody's heading toward it, and then they all sort of
get to the mouth of the nest.
And they just feel good. There's no fear. They dig in. It's familiar smells. They're home, where they belonged. And she smells everyone, and they touch them, and she touches them. And she touches them, and they touch her with their antennae. And she says, "We were of the colony." The colony.
Right. And suddenly they had a pension, and they had a stable income and housing.
Yeah.
How horrifying.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
But at
How
what cost?
horrifying. How scary. At what
this just
cost?
goes to show you universal basic income makes people work more. We've said it all along.
We've said it all along. The capitalists should be happy.
Also, while this is happening, a worker was ahead of me. It extruded a pellet of digested cellulose wood pulp. I quickly gobbled it up.
And there were apparently messages in the wood pulp poop. It was hormones telling her where to go, what she was supposed to do. And now she's running around with everybody else following the voices in their head.
And it's no different than those taxons and those human controllers in book 7 rushing off to work on the public transportation. It is just that here. They're all like, I have to get to work.
How terrible. How terrible a future that people actually want to get to work.
Yeah. And yeah, she has an alien voice inside of her saying, "What am I doing?" And she ignores it. And then there's, no, let me go. But she just keeps powering down the tunnel, going to work. She says,
but she thinks she knows the voice, but it's from far away, and she doesn't understand its language. And it's going, no, let me go. And then she starts to get sick, but she's tunneling along, just moving along, got a good feeling about today. It's a powerful smell, getting stronger and stronger.
America runs on Duncan.
I feel that way. Oh my God, that's how I felt earlier today, because I'm house sitting and I couldn't make coffee here, so I got coffee super late, and I was super sad all morning, and I was like, is coffee the only reason why I think my life is okay? I had that moment.
But it says she goes down the black tunnels, over and through the packed rush hour streams of workers, to the center, to the core, to the heart. Help me!
Help me!
The voice, my voice.
My voice. The faint, failing voice of the human named Cassie. Me. Suddenly I was Cassie again. I knew my name. I knew who I was, but it was too late. The termite body was out of my control. A stronger will than mine was guiding it.
That's right. And do we think this was the information that was given to her in the pellets she ate? She's now basically drugged her body into doing what the queen wants?
I like that. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is it. She drank the Kool-Aid. She drank the poop aid. The pee aid.
She got a job.
The piss aid goes with. She got a job, man. She sold out, man.
These damn yuppies.
You take the 9 to 5, and I'll take the night shift. And I'll never see you again if I can help it.
So she comes upon the termite queen with a row of sticky, slimy eggs, and she was apparently just enormous. Huge beyond belief. We're not given any sort of real description, just massive. And Cassie sees the termite head and its useless waving arms, and then from that, a monstrous pulsating sack as big as a blimp.
Fun.
At the far end was a double row of sticky, slimy legs to be picked up. Thank you. Sticky, slimy legs, eggs, to be picked up and carried away by worker termites, the queen. I was in the chamber of the termite queen.
She was in the chamber of the termite queen.
You're saying that weird.
Escape.
Escape. Guys, this book's fucked up.
It's a really dark book, so that's where we're gonna end. We're in the chamber of the termite queen.
Just you wait, Chrissy Higgins, just you wait. We used to sing that in our apartment all the time, but not with Chrissy Higgins. That would have been weird. But used to sing just you wait. Henry Higgins.
Whenever I knew I needed to get back at you, I would sing that song. Well, the three of us know what happens next.
In My Fair Lady, absolutely. Yeah.
But the listeners will have to wait
My Fair
until next
Andalite.
week.
Oh my God! In My Fair Andalite, where they teach Axe to talk right,
They
teach it to speak normally. It's My Fair Andalite.
Andalites teach the children how to speak.
Oh my God! Oh my.
Well, men, they have no mouths.
That's the framework.
That's the
for a musical.
That is the framer. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon.